wish to leave after the public hearing and the action that will take place after that, I'll declare a brief recess for 5 minutes for those of you who are so disposed, and then the council will get back to the items that remain on our agenda for this evening. There are sign-up sheets in the back. If everyone who would like to say a word tonight would sign up, the sheets will be brought forward here once we begin to proceed through the agenda. We will leave a clipboard with a sign-up sheet on the table down in front in case some late arrivals choose to speak, or if someone in the audience would like to be heard from as the public hearing proceeds. So other than that, we'll go ahead and start with our agenda items, and then I'll have a couple more announcements to make at the outset of the public hearing. So with that being said, would you please stand with me and join in the Pledge of Allegiance? Following that, Councilman Poole will lead us in an invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father, our wise and everlasting God, we thank you that you've given us another privilege to assemble together to do the work of this town. We thank you for the citizens that came out tonight, that we might not only fellowship together, but work together as one, that we may build this city, that we may work together in unity, and we may live together in peace and grow for this city. There are many works and challenges to be done. We ask that you will go with us, help us to make the right decision. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from previous meetings. Does anybody have any corrections, additions that Mayor would like to make relative?
Mayor, I have some corrections to make to a couple of the regular meetings. The meeting on December the 12th, Councilman Biggs made a motion to approve the change order, but there was no one's name next to who seconded. It just said councilman. That's on page 4, December 12th, meeting minutes.
We'll pull those from the minutes.
Okay.
Mayor, February 13th minutes, page 3, Councilman Dixon made a motion to approve an amendment, and Councilman Dixon also seconded the motion. And on page 3 of those same minutes, it read Councilman Biggs inquired about the status of the pay and classification study. That was not Councilman Biggs, that was Councilman Miller. They're the only 3 corrections I need to make.
So noted. Anne Marie was telling me as you were commenting that they would pull those minutes up and make the corrections as you suggested. Thank you. Anyone else have any corrections or comments about the minutes? Chair would entertain a motion to approve as corrected.
So second.
Motion and a second to do so. Any further questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, no. All right. That leads us to the high interest item on our agenda tonight. And again, thank all of you for coming out. A couple of comments prior to opening up the podium for your remarks, I'd just like to remind you that during the course of this endeavor, we have had occasion to hear from the public relative to the use of the building. Tonight's meeting and the purpose of the public hearing is to follow North Carolina statutes, which we've done throughout this process, whereby a municipality can sell public property for economic development purposes. That's something this council adopted at the outset of Mr. Glover's interest, and we've been following through with that. And this public hearing is the final phase of that statutory requirement. After that, the council will entertain a motion to vote on the sale of the building by virtue of passing a resolution. In that resolution, there are all of the elements that the state law requires, plus conditions that some of you who've been regularly attending these discussions are aware of, that have been attached to the building for future use, to which Mr. Glover has agreed to follow. He has also agreed to accept the newly appraised valuation at $309,000 instead of $282,000. So as we get into the again, to the portion of the meeting where you all are invited to the podium, I think I have covered everything I wanted to say. The next thing after the resolution, which will wrap this thing up, is that the town, if the resolution is approved, and Mr. Glover's limited liability corporation will enter into the closing phase of the sale, at which time all other items related to permits, future tax credits that would be available to the developer to use in his upfit of the building will all be considered prior to closing. So we don't have firm dates on closing. Just wanted you to know that. But the next phase after tonight, again, pending the outcome of the vote on the resolution, will be to enter into the closing phase. Mr. Glover is not in attendance tonight. However, Chris O'Neill has been hired by Mr. Glover to be the operator of the business, again, pending the outcome of our deliberations here tonight. So I'd like to welcome Chris to the audience and look forward to seeing you as part of our community in the future. And finally, we are going to ask that you limit your remarks to a 3-minute time frame. There's a screen by the podium that will show you the time remaining in your remarks. Won't be hard on that if you're in the middle of making comments that that you want to conclude prior to taking your seat. We will indulge that, but I'll give you a wrap-up notice so that the next in line can come to the podium. So we're anxious to hear what you have to say, and I will now ask Anne Marie, our manager, to read the names who have signed up to speak, and we will look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to call out 3 names in order, and so as the person in front of you finishes, if you can make your way to the podium. But the first speaker tonight will be Dr. Chris Ford, followed by Joni Evans, and then Norma Welsh, excuse me, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Chris Ford. I'm a business owner, an employer, and a resident of Edenton since 2000. I'm still here today because 16 years ago, there was an opportunity to invest in Edenton. The owner of Chowan Animal Hospital, Dr. Jones, sold me his practice. It was a very good deal for both of us. Owning a business secured my professional future. Dr. Jones had a future to secure too, goals he wanted to achieve. The practice was an asset he needed to sell in order to invest in his own future. Selling the business was great for both sides, a win-win. Fortune was certainly smiling on that opportunity. Don't you see that Fortune is smiling on this opportunity as well? Isn't this a deal that's a win-win for both parties? Doesn't Edenton have plans for the future? Don't we have capital needs that the sale of the Conger building can help address? Don't we have plans for the future? The building is a great asset, but what has this building done for us in the years since it's been vacant, except cost us money? It's time to sell this asset before it bleeds us of any more taxpayer funds. We have a qualified buyer willing to pay appraised value and abide by all the covenants attached to the property. On top of that, he'll be investing a whole lot more capital into much-needed renovations. Renovations the town can't afford. Those renovations mean work for our local contractors, materials for our retailers that our retailers could provide, and an extended tax base. Not only does Edenton have a buyer with capital, but in Mr. Glover, we have someone that will embrace the legacy of this property. After all, his family is a part of that legacy. Dating back to when ICE was sold from this building, there's a long history of commercial enterprise here, providing service to the community and good jobs to our citizens. By selling the building, we can return the property to this heritage and turn an empty building into a driver of economic development. A vibrant business that will draw people to town, which will benefit downtown businesses and enhance the value of the commercial properties surrounding the Conger building. Selling the Conger building is a smart thing to do. It meets our current fiscal needs and the ongoing need for economic investment in our community. Opportunities like this don't come along every day. Opportunities like this don't come along every decade. You don't need to take my word for it. Anyone passing by the vacant storefronts on Water Street or Broad Street or Coke Avenue can see that investment is something that Edenton is in dire need of more of. Honorable council members, as stewards of this town's assets, you have an important choice to make.
Go ahead, finish
Okay.
up.
I'll be brief. A choice to sell the building and use that money to benefit the whole town versus a choice to hold on to a costly vacant building. A choice to say we support new business investment in our town versus a choice to say we would rather dry up than welcome a new business. When you consider what is best for Edenton, the choice is clear. The time is now. Sell the Conger building. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, and Town Manager, the issues you have before you this evening are critical to the future of Edenton and the surrounding area. What happens here tonight will pave the future of the town and the waterfront. It is a serious matter. The Conger building is part of the industrial architecture of Edenton, built when the rail system was in place on the waterfront in the late 19th and early 20th century. Over time, the building has been incorporated into the beautiful park that so many citizens and visitors enjoy today. The waterfront is all about families. There is the Barker House on the east end, the Long Pier and boat dock, the children's playground, which is being upgraded and enhanced, the historic lighthouse, kayaking and canoeing and picnic tables and benches dotted throughout the waterfront park. This is a family gathering place, and it belongs to the town of Edenton. Selling the Conger building will remove it from the town's full authority, and although the building has some covenants in place, nothing can be certain about its future and the future of the waterfront if it is sold. As long as the town owns the Conger building, there is security in its future. Some states and localities have adopted a program known as the Resident Curatorship Program, which is designed to preserve historic properties by offering long-term leases to qualified tenants who agree to rehabilitate, upgrade, and maintain the property, following preservation standards and doing this at their own expense. The North Carolina Department of Transportation could be looking for a waterfront building in the near future to use as a ferry terminal for the proposed ferry system that would bring tourists from the Outer Banks to the inland towns such as Edenton. Would not the Conger building fit perfectly into such a plan? A transportation museum with emphasis on early maritime history of our waterfront, as well as the Underground Railroad story of the 19th century and the Edenton rail system of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, could be part of a transportation theme for the future use of the building, such as a ferry terminal. The town needs to maintain ownership of this building. The brewery being proposed tonight for the Conger building is not appropriate for the waterfront. The park is all about families, and on a normal summer day, families with children are visible throughout the park. The park area needs to maintain a wholesome environment for all to enjoy. Thank you, and I'm trusting that tonight the right decisions will be made in regards to the families of Edenton.
I've been asked if, excuse me, ma'am, I've been asked if each one of you would state your name before your remarks. Thank you.
All right. I am Norma Wells. I have lived in Edenton and Chowan County for about 30 years now. I've seen our waterfront go from a working waterfront with oil tanks and everything that goes with it to the beautiful park that we have now. The parcel of land that contains the Conger building is to me just an extension of the park. If that is sold, Edenton loses control of that piece of property. When it's gone, it's gone. You don't get it back. The building, I understand, is in need of repair, but we have seen that there are a lot of people in Edenton and in the area with imagination, with business experience, with access to capital, who could do something to develop that piece of property if it was desired, if the town really wanted to do something with it. I think it would be possible. To sell that piece of property, you don't know what's coming in the future, what might be needed there. If you don't have it, then you're dependent on the person who owns that property for anything that you may need. And I just feel that, I know $309,000 is a lot of money, but that money will be gone. After a few years, it will be gone, and the property will be gone, and we don't have anything to show for it then. So I do feel that we ought to think long and hard before we part with that piece of waterfront property that's adjacent to our park and that we could maybe need in the future. Thank you.
The next three speakers are Gary Swanner, Gil Burrows, and Barbara Burrows.
Good evening, Gary Swanner. I'm here tonight to bring my message back to you as I've done before. I'm against you selling the property. I'm not against a brewery coming to Edenton. That would be a great asset, but I believe there's a better place for it where you can get better activity out of it. The property in question is just too small for what you really like to do, as well as for parking. If it was in a different location, a larger facility, better economic return could be done. A lot of things that a building could have been used for and should be used for under the town control. And I don't think it's a good fit for the park, and I don't think we need to sell the property. It took us a long time to get it, and we shouldn't be giving it away just in the name of 2 full-time jobs. Don't sell the property. The property's been there vacant for a amount of time, not because it couldn't have been used for something, and because you drug your feet. So let's keep it within the town ownership, and let's do something with it that's related to the waterfront and its uses. Thank you.
Gil Burrows. Over 30 years ago, a town council was faced with a similar decision that you will be making. Downtown waterfront, where the lighthouse now sits, was badly eroding. It was unbulkheaded. The whole area at that point, and where the Sunfish building is, all of that land was being used as a repository for broken concrete sidewalks and gutters. The town had an opportunity to develop that. An offer was made to put a motel down there and bulkhead it with wood bulkheading. Unfortunately, the town gave it another look, and a group of citizens, chaired by myself and Mark Hart Edwards, proposed to build a park there at no cost to the town. And we managed to raise $25,000 for a matching grant. And as a result of that, the property was bulkheaded. You can go down there now, look at the bulkhead in front of the lighthouse, and you'll see the names of the individuals, organizations, and people who paid $100 a foot in order for that to be bulkheaded and the park to be made and cleared. Now tonight, you're once again being presented with some flawed information and documents. Mr. Glover has repeatedly stated 2 full-time employees, as did the town manager in the council meeting of February the 13th. 2. Yet the 2015 impact report, which stated a value added to the town and county of $175,000, was based on 6 full-time employees, not 2. So it is an erroneously inflated value. The proposed covenant, number 11, states the only use of the building is to be a craft beer brewery with restaurant. You don't go to McDonald's and say, I want a pickle with hamburger. Everybody knows you want a hamburger and a pickle on the side. Number 11 further states that it can't be a factory. No definition of factory is in the UDO, nor for a restaurant. Now, most people know a restaurant is where you sit down and eat a meal. A factory is where a product is manufactured from raw materials. Mr. Glover's proposal shows 10 stainless steel tanks for brewing beer and a tap room for dispensing beer. These utilize 49% of the building, while the restaurant seating occupies only 22%. Obviously, the brewery is the dominant use of the building, and it's also obvious that Mr. Glover will be manufacturing alcoholic beverages.
Mrs. Burrows?
I would like the public to know know that I'm yielding my minutes to my husband, Mr. Burrows.
We stated at the outset that speakers would be limited to 3 minutes each. Mr. Burrows, could you give me some idea of what else in terms of time?
About a minute and a half, I reckon.
Okay, you can take the podium.
It is my understanding that the zoning administrator plans to issue a permit under the restaurant code, which requires no public hearing or approval by the town council. To do so would be a misuse of the UDO, if not an illegal action. The proper administration of the UDO would be to classify the proposed brewery as a bar, as defined in the UDO, as an establishment primarily engaged in the retail sale of alcoholic beverages such as beer, ale, wine, and liquor for consumption on the premises. The other acceptable classification would be a combination use of restaurant and manufacturing beverage products alcoholic. Both of these options are clearly and specifically made available in the UTO and are permitted in the downtown district where the brew pub is planned. Clearly, what is proposed for the Conga property is primarily the manufacturing and retail sale of beer, and in no way could be primarily considered a restaurant for zoning permit purposes. To continue down this path of misusing the UDO is only to invite the possibility of legal action through the courts. I would respectfully request that you reconsider the action that you are about to take.
Okay, the next three speakers are Debbie Burrows, Ray Burrows Knox, and Dawson Tyler.
Ray Burrows Knox. I would like to address Town Council, Mayor Vaughn, and Town Manager Anne Marie Knighton that it's not that I'm against a brew pub. I concur just like with Mr. Swanner. I have no problem with a brew pub. All the talk of the ones in Kinston and other places, I just, along with the other people that have spoke, I do not feel that where it's being put is the proper place. No need to repeat what's been said because it's already been said. I do agree with the fact that it is town property. It is a park. I think what I want to address is the fact that it is a park. And coming from a parent who has grown children, but I do have grandchildren to visit. And I have even been down there occasionally when we have had events over at the Barker House. And they've cordoned off a rope and a sign or whatever where no alcoholic beverages are allowed in the park. So I decided, and one of them was being the Taste of Edenton was one of them. There were other ones too. So I decided to go sit at the park and just observe what was happening. And what I observed was people leaving the area where they were supposed to be confined, drinking alcoholic beverages, and meandering over to our wonderful park. On one occasion, there was a police officer that was in the parking lot right there behind Truant Arts Council. So I approached him and I said, can you please go say something to the people? They're not supposed to be having alcoholic beverages over there. And he did. He told them they went back only for them to leave and for them to re-enter back into the park again. I even observed a mother with children at the park as her in that park area where the swings are with a glass of wine. I observed Chief Fortenberry tell her that she could not have this. I observed her put it underneath her stroller only for him to walk off and her to pick up that glass of wine and drink again. I've observed this on several occasions when we've had places, and the police have done their job of coming and escorting them out, only for them to return again. These have been the rare occasions that we only have these events several times a year. We're going to 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. Not occasionally that we might have that. Do we want people meandering out with their beer or their wine because they've got their children with them and they want to finish what they're drinking at the park while their children are swinging? Or going and sitting on the park bench to enjoy our beautiful view, our waterfront view? We shouldn't. This is a park. This is a family park. This is what it needs to stay. And the only way we know what's going to happen is the town has to retain control. They have to. And where does the money go to? It's a done thing. But that police department was a waste of money. We could have taken a lot of that money and put it into that building. It wasn't a wise choice, but it's done. But I can promise you this, I'm retired now. I love my summers. I love to sit down and read. So I'm asking you to think of everything, Town Council, before you vote. But I can promise you, I got plenty of time on my hands. I have no problem sitting at that park with a book and making a phone call every time I see somebody walk to Edenton's finest. Should they waste their time? No. I have 2 sons in law enforcement and one's retired. They shouldn't have to waste their time to come down to the park to tell people that that's not supposed to happen. But I've seen it in the past and I know what's going to happen in the future. Let's keep our park family friendly. Thank you.
Dawson Tyler, a local preservation contractor, and thank you for this forum and allowing everybody to get their opinions in on the sale of the Conger building. So I, like so many in this building, spend all day working on old historic structures. And I think, as many of the people in this audience know, it requires a lot of money to keep up an old building such as the Conger building, especially one that is so important to the maritime history of Edenton. We really have very few things left in Edenton that speak to that maritime tradition and allow people, actually none, that allow people to really enjoy that piece of the town's history that was so important. And, you know, for me, Mr. Glover, his willingness to invest in this building, in this town, is just a true gift that will allow people such as myself, others in this audience, to go out and enjoy a piece of history, to look out on that beautiful bay that we have, enjoy a meal, enjoy a glass of beer. And it really is, you know, it's strange to me, one of the most striking things about a town that is so perfectly oriented to the water, that there isn't an opportunity to do these kind of basic things that you would expect of such a beautiful place. I think that wraps up my remarks, but overall, I'm just very appreciative that Mr. Glover is willing to take a risk in this town, has stuck with this process for years now, and really wants to make this happen for Edenton. Thank you.
The next 3 speakers are John Moorhead, Pat Grother, and Alicia Cassidy Quaid, excuse me.
Members of the council, my name is John Moorhead. I've lived here since 1976, and I practice law here. As one of the past speakers alluded to the fact, when there was the opposition to selling off part of the park for a motel, I was part of the leadership of that opposition. And we had bumper stickers and everything, and I absolutely was opposed to selling off part of the park for commercial use. Those of you who know me know that I'm basically a non-drinker. I look for non-alcoholic beer or exotic soft drinks. If I can't find anything else, I might have a beer once a month, but it's only because I can't find anything else. I like living in a town where the ballpark doesn't sell alcoholic beverages. I like living in a county with a good Bible Belt heritage. I'm against alcohol sales on Sunday. I think all of this is a good part of the mix that we have here. But I'm in favor of the sale of this property to John Conger Glover, and I will tell you why. Because I'm in favor of keeping the park as a area for families and for children. We have a really strange history in the United States of prohibition. And what happened was after those decades of prohibition, when it was released, we lurched back in the other direction. And we had the drinking halls that people remember that were rowdy and a nuisance. If you look at the other countries that didn't have prohibition, England, Ireland, Europe, if you go to Williamsburg, where I went to school, you see the pubs that they have, the pubs or taverns that they have there, which are totally family-friendly places. They're very civilized. They're not loud or a nuisance or out of hand. They're where people go to eat and have a beer, and with their children. That's what we're proposing to bring here. It's not a traditional American rowdy drinking hall like we remember. This is the only building left. This is the only building we have left on the waterfront that can be used for any commercial uses. It's the only one left. You know, we heard at the last public hearing the folks from the Barker House saying how many tourists asked to have a place to eat on the waterfront. We heard how the younger folks are going to the other towns in order to find one of these restored brew pubs that we have here, like they have in Williamsburg. Like I say, this is the only place left on the waterfront that could be used for a restaurant, and the best thing about it, as we know from the past, is that at one of these brew pubs, although the beer isn't cheap, you can get a meal there that is cheap, and therefore, for the only place that Edenton's going to have to eat on the waterfront, it's something that everybody in town can afford to go to. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Grother? Okay. Alicia?
Tonight you have an opportunity to invest in Edenton by taking an empty building and filling it with life again. My name is Alicia Castiquay. 8 years ago, my husband and I invested in Edenton, and tonight I'm urging you to do the same thing by voting to sell the Conger building. For over 5 years, the Conger building has not been used for taxpayer benefit, but for storage for the Selling Club, which is a small percentage of the population. Selling the building would create financial benefits for the community as a whole. It would give the town much needed property tax revenue. That's money that we could use to enhance the community in other ways. It would create jobs. 2 jobs is still job creation. It would generate sales tax revenue. It would increase our population by attracting new families to invest in Edenton, just as mine did. It would attract regional tourism we've not had because we haven't had access to a business like this. And that regional tourism that we add to our own will benefit all of Edenton's businesses. In addition, we do not currently have waterfront dining, and we are a waterfront community. That What we do have is largely residential. It's time to find a balance and take advantage of our beautiful waterfront. Saying yes to selling the building is a commitment to the future of Edenton. Over 2 years ago, I spoke at a public hearing over the same issue. Over 2 years ago, Mr. Glover offered to invest in our community, a commitment he still holds today. He's answered every single one of your challenges. He's addressed and accepted every single one of the covenants, and he's continued to maintain that commitment to our community with a higher asking price. We cannot ignore opportunity when it knocks at the door. Doing so sets a negative precedent for future investment proposals for our town. Over 2 years ago, more than 800 people signed a petition urging council to sell the Conger building, asking council to embrace growth and invest in the vision of people. We must invest in and embrace opportunities in order to nourish and strengthen our community now and for future generations. It's time now to invest in the future of our community and to listen to the voice of the people. I ask those in favor of the sale, stand up with me. Let your voice be heard now. Council members, we have invested in Edenton. Now it's your turn to do so by voting yes to sell the building. Thank you.
The next three speakers are Joe Liata, Dr. Skip Hope, and Tom Abbott.
Hi, Council. My name is Joe Liata, and I can't be any more eloquent than the previous speaker. You're faced today with the decision between opportunity and the choice of watching the town continue to atrophy. We are losing population. We are losing our tax base. This town needs money. And selling the Conger building will bring in, as the last speaker said, new tax dollars, new revenue. It will bring in jobs. It will announce to people that Edenton is open for new businesses to come into town. For the past over 2 years, since I've been in town, that property has been sitting there doing nothing. That's lost money. That's an opportunity wasted. We have the chance to take that. We'll get $309,000, which the town can desperately use. We don't have to spend money to fix it up, which is also a good thing. And the property value will go up when Mr. Glover comes in and renovates the property. Additionally, what this is going to give us is extra tourism. Wouldn't it be really neat if this town became known as a foodie destination in addition to the most beautiful small town in the South? We need things to attract people here. We need choices for them to be able to make. And restaurants is what people like when they come and visit. We have some very good restaurants in town, but we need more. We don't have enough choices there. Developing the waterfront this way has been shown in many other cities in this country to really build up a town and bring those tourist dollars in. And that will help this town grow and become the town that we really need it to be. Thank you.
Dr. Hope? Okay. Tom Abbott?
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, audience, Mr. Mayor, my name is Tom Abbott. My wife and family and I have been in Edenton for 23 years, and it's been a blessing. I want to talk to you about craft breweries briefly. There are 305 craft breweries in North Carolina right now. 67 of them at the moment are brew pubs. They employ over 13,000 people. The average wage is about between $47,000 and $50,000. The economic impact of craft breweries in this state is $2.5 billion and growing every year. The labor income is over $600 million. That comes out to a financial impact of about $280 per adult of the citizens in this state. How many folks have we got in this county? Do the math. The culture of brew pubs. I have heard the use of the term wholesome, as brew pubs are not. Have any of you who have ever talked about unwholesome brew pubs actually visited one? I have, a number of them. Fuquay Varina, Aviator, Tarboro. We've got a new one in Elizabeth City, Ghost Harbor. You go there, you don't see drunks. You see citizens doing the same thing that we have done in Edenton for hundreds of years, engaging in civil discourse and lively discussion. Don't turn your back on our history, folks. This is nothing new. We've done this before. No drunks, no misbehavior. This is not a bar. I repeat, this is not a bar. Okay? It is a public place where people go and talk and engage in the business of their community and their lives. If we want to teach responsible alcohol consumption, folks, that starts at home. It starts in church. It starts in school. Okay? Watching people down at the park? Well, yeah, there are probably some, but we'll have rules in place. The corporate culture in a brew pub, as I talk to a number of owners of brew pubs, is they're striving for excellence, both in their products and in their establishments. They want good behavior. 2 weeks ago when I was down at Ghost Harbor, I met a bunch of very fine people right there. I talked to a professor of English at Elizabeth City State for 2 hours about poetry, because I taught English too. It was a wonderful experience. I would not have met him otherwise. Think about what a brew pub really means, both to the town now and to the history of this community. Thank you.
The last three names who have signed up to speak are Jim Elliott, Susan Stocks, and Cynthia Harding.
Excuse me. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jim Elliott. I was born and raised here in Edenton, and I'm a beer lover. I love craft beer. I really do. But I'm not willing to sacrifice our town property, our town waterfront property, to put a brewery in that location. We could look at all other alternatives. We could always maybe engage in a lease. It doesn't have to be Mr. Glover. He's not the only person in North Carolina that can put a brewery in that building or any other location in town. And we've been striving for economic development, for our town. A lot of people have mentioned that this evening. Why don't we put the same efforts into finding another location in town for a brewery instead of this location? Or other things in town. What are we doing with the town office? Where's all the activity to try to find, a tenant for that? But there's just so many other things we can do rather than concentrating on trying to sell this building. Once that building is sold, it's gone. And we'll never get it back. Unless, If he were to do something that would go against the covenants of the building, then we'd have to sue to get it back, and I don't think we've got enough money to do that. But I'm just asking you, please don't sacrifice the building in order to get a brew pub. The other thing is would be sacrificing is our sailing program. The Edenton Yacht Club worked very hard to put a roof on that building. If it hadn't been for the yacht club, that little building in the back wouldn't even be there today. Now you're going to kick us out. If he buys the building, then the sailing program is going to be finished pretty much. You know, we'd have to find another location, and I'm not so sure that's going to happen, how long it would take. But I don't think it's worth the sacrifice to sell it. Once it's sold, it's gone. Anyway, so please reconsider the sale of this building. I don't really agree with the way it was done to begin with. I think it was a backroom deal. We've got some people sitting right up here tonight that I think started in conversations with Glover while we still had a tenant in the building. You know, so it was all orchestrated. The sale of the building, I don't think, went properly. We didn't really give it to the real estate community. We put it on an exclusive website. We had 2 proposals. Mr. Glover was only one of 2 proposals we got for the building. What does that say about the fairness as far as getting it out there, spreading the word that we do have a building to sell? So there's just a better way to do it. Just a better way to do it. So please don't sell the building. Once it's gone, it's gone. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Susan Stocks, and I was not going to speak tonight despite signing up because I figured y'all have probably heard from me enough. However, so many things that have been said tonight, I have to stand up. First of all, I thought the issue before the council was whether or not to sell the building. All this discussion about the brewery, I thought it was a pretty black and white issue of whether we're going to sell the building or not. And there are several ways to look at this. One person mentioned that the waterfront is about family and young people. Despite my old age and young children, I am 42, and I represent that population that you're referring to. I can promise you, when people are coming from the Outer Banks and going home, they don't stop in Edenton because of a fantastic new Maritime museum. They stop because their kids are driving them crazy, somebody in the car has to pee, they're hungry, and they would love to run around on a playground. My little people are 2 and 4. I promise you, come ride with us and we'll solve that issue right there. Additionally, we are losing people left and right. My favorite 2 friends were both doctors at the hospital. They moved because of a lack of opportunity, a lack of activity, and because of concerns over the school system. This has got to improve if we are going to maintain past today. We have got to have more going on for our people. 69% of our children in schools are on free and reduced lunch. That is incredible. We have got to improve. We've got to have more job opportunity. We've got to have more taxable, a higher tax base. Concern over alcohol in the park. I kind of want to laugh at that. I have never seen anyone drunk at the park, and I'm there. I've never seen any of you that are complaining about the park. I've never seen you there when I'm there several times a week. If there's a festival and people are out near the park, it is a festival. It is not a brewery. It is not a brewery or a restaurant would be contained just like Malcolm's was when it was right adjacent to the park and no one whined. And if we're worried about people drinking out in public, we have retirees who want to read and call the police. So great, we have citizens patrolling for us, and then we'll even be safer. To the point of once we sell it, we can't get it back. Thank God. We don't need to keep this building. We're paying for utilities. We're paying for repairs. We're doing all this when we don't have the money to do it. Mr. Burr, one point about the sailing club. I certainly respect what the sailing club does for the community. Ooh, I can slow down, 57 seconds. I respect what they do for the community, but it's a very small percentage of the community. We need to do something for the community at large. If I like to bake cookies and want to have a baking cookies club that serves 7 of us, that's awesome, and that's great for me, but it's not helping the community as a whole other than a small population. I'm sure that's offensive, and I don't mean it to be, but it's truth. Mr. Burrows said, you don't ask for a pickle with a hamburger. I would say you don't refuse a pickle when you're hungry. We need this opportunity. We need any opportunity in this building. I would remind you all that you're elected to represent the constituents. Please listen to them. They have been speaking loudly for over 2 years, and they are here tonight, and we've counted approximately 80% of the people here are in favor of selling the building. Thank you for your time.
Cynthia, you pass? Okay.
Okay. I've been told that our list of speakers as far as signees at the beginning of the meeting have all been heard from. I'll open up one last time the opportunity for anyone who's been in attendance that did not hear what they wanted to hear or think that something was omitted, be it either for or against the sale of this building. We'll give you the opportunity to come to the podium, identify yourselves, and we'll listen to what you have to say. Okay, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. And thank all of you for your attendance and participation. The next item of business relative to the following of the statute, as I mentioned at the outset, is for the town council to bring forward a motion, if one so desires, to adopt the resolution authorizing the sale of real property for economic development. You all have had a copy of the resolution for review purposes.
Your Honor, I'll make that motion. Honor, I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution authorizing the sale. Is there any further discussion or comment from the town council? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, no?
No.
We have one opposing vote and 4 affirmative votes. The motion to enter into the resolution to sell the building has passed. We have a second resolution relating to property lines on the border of the west side. And Anne Marie, I'll ask you to address that, please.
Yes, Mayor. When the town had the property survey, it was discovered that there is a very small area of land that is not included in our parcel and is not included in the adjoining neighbor's parcel, Steve Leary's. And I've been told that that situation is called, in the surveying world, is called a gore. And I've also been told that it's not uncommon that that happens. So our town attorney drafted a boundary line agreement, and if the council approves that, and if Mr. Leary executes it, it would clear up that gore and establish a boundary line which would be consistent with what the town's survey says it is. And Mr. Leary will be happy because it's consistent with what he says his property line is. So, Mayor, we recommend that you adopt the resolution. And Hood, did I describe it adequately, or do you want to add some things?
I think you did a wonderful job. Again, it's just this piece of property is not in our chain of title, it's not in the city's chain of title. We're just agreeing with this line, and that settles it.
Very good. Having heard the presentation from our town manager, the chair would entertain a motion to approve that resolution as well.
So moved, Mayor.
Okay. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second to approve the boundary line agreement as entered into by Mr. Leary and the town of Edenton. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, no? All right, that resolution will be signed and acted upon as well. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes tonight's agenda relative to the Conger Building. You're welcome to stay and listen to us deliberate the balance of our agenda, or you're free to go. I'll declare a 5-minute recess. Call on the administrative committee that's chaired by Councilman Biggs. I need a substitute.
You want me to do it, or Craig?
Go ahead.
You want me to do it, Mayor?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Is that okay with the committee?
It's fine.
And just so people are aware, I had a couple people ask me, Councilman Biggs is home ill with the flu. He let me know yesterday he was very sick, and he was hoping his fever would break and he'd be here today, but he sent an email to the council earlier saying that he just couldn't make it and was sorry. So we hope he gets well soon. But the first item on the Administrative Committee's agenda is a recommendation to approve the agreement with the Edenton Historical Commission for the operation of the trolley as presented. And that calls for the town to partner with the commission to operate the trolley. The commission will provide the tour guide.
So moved on that. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the agreement with the Edenton Historical Commission for future operation of the trolley. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, no?
I'm glad things are worked out there. I really am.
Yeah, that's...
Save the trolley.
Mayor, the second item on the Administrative Committee's agenda is a recommendation that the council approve the resolution requesting Chowan County Board of Commissioners exercise the planning and regulation development powers within the town's extraterritorial jurisdiction as presented. And this would allow the county to handle the review and permitting of the windmills charging station that is proposed as part of the Apex project.
I think that's a good move. So move.
Seconded. All right, we have a motion and a second to that effect. One comment from me is that I think it's important to understand that this is specific to one project. It is not a full release of the town's development authorities within its extraterritorial jurisdiction. So it applies only to the
Apex Energy.
Those properties.
The property as defined that we discussed in committee.
I think it's great the county has agreed to take that on.
Any further questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, no? All right, that motion carries as well. And number 4, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. The Administrative Committee recommends that the council accept the proposal from Joran Hood for the video services to produce the East Gale Street Neighborhood Preservation video. That's part of a grant that the town received as presented.
Could you make a statement as to what that video is going to cover, please, ma'am? I think the community would be interested.
Yes, sir. We obtained a grant to produce a video focusing on the architectural historical significance of East Gale Street. That includes the wonderful Cadish Church. It includes Hannibal Badham houses. Elizabeth, what else?
Miss Audrey Bond's house is one of the oldest houses in Edenton, and there are several other homes that are around the same era as the Hannibal Badham house that were previously houses.
thank you. We think it's going to be a great project.
May I say one quick thing? I think this is going to help us preserve Kadesh, and I think that one thing, that's one of the most important things we can do right now in this town. A lot of people are helping, and John Moorhead's out there in the audience. He helped write the grant proposals and is kind enough to help with another really important document that's being worked on right now. So I think this is just one more step in our attempt to do what is right and help restore that street, which is of unbelievably historic significance. So, I'm all for it.
Okay, with that presentation and other comments being said, the chair would entertain a motion to hire Mr. Hood.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to do so. Any further questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, no? Very good. And that completes the Administrative Committee activities for this evening. Moving now to Finance, and that's chaired by Councilman Dixon, please, sir.
I will make this very quick. We have one thing on tonight. It's that we recommend that the council approve the budget amendment as was presented, and I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the budget amendments as presented. Further questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, no? All right, that carries as well. Moving to Public Works, chaired by Councilman Stallings, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. We have two items on our agenda tonight. The first one, it's recommended the council approve agreement for the drainage improvement on Old Hereford Road. We've talked about that considerably. I think you got an email this afternoon from Anne Marie on that, so I will put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to begin the drainage improvements on Old Hertford Road by signing the agreement to do so. Any further questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, no?
Mayor, I just had a question there.
Yes, sir.
Mainly, I guess it's for Corey. I wasn't too sure what utility cloud meant. Utility cloud?
Utility cloud will be the service that we're going to use to track and maintain our work orders throughout the town and all of the divisions.
Okay.
Along with all our maintenance.
Okay. Thank you.
Second item we have tonight, Mayor, is, every year we have Boogie on the Broad, and we're going to have that again in April. And it is recommended that council approve a resolution for authorizing provisions to allow possession of beer and wine on special event, Town Code of Ordinances, Chapter 130-38, as presented. And that is to make it simple to section off a portion of Broad Street for Boogie on the Broad. And I put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further questions or comments?
I want to thank Jennifer and all her staff and the police. It's a great, great affair.
That's in April.
Yes.
All right.
That's
All in
April.
favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no? All right, that motion carries.
That is April 20th, correct?
Is that right?
Yeah, April 20th.
April 20th, okay. Very good, and that concludes our committee reports. Moving now to new business. Anne Marie, would you present the surplus equipment request to sell a bucket truck from 1992?
Yes, Mayor.
That's amazing.
The council approved the purchase of a new bucket truck earlier this year, and that has arrived and is almost in service, I believe. And so we're ready to formally dispose of the 1992 High Ranger bucket truck. It has 150,000 miles on it, and we believe that it will generate a lot of interest from tree trimming contractors, but we believe that the value will be, the value of the truck is more than $5,000, and the town council has given, the manager has given me authority to dispose of equipment that's valued less than $5,000. So since this is expected to be more than $5,000, we want to make sure that you all approve that. And then we'll advertise it on GovDeals.
All right, Chair would entertain a motion to sell the truck.
Second.
Motion and a second to sell. My only comment, or it's really a question. Are any of those 150,000 miles outside the city limits of Edenton? Okay. That's amazing to me. Past due. All right.
I had that same question. Wondered how many of those was put on outside the city limits.
Yeah.
Because 150,000 miles inside the city limits is a lot.
That's a lot of driving. Yeah. All right, Chair would entertain a did we do that? Did we get the motion? No, I'm sorry. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no? All right, that motion carries. We'll proceed with the sale. Council members, do you have anything timely and important you would like to share with your fellow council members?
Mayor, I got just a couple things. Number one, I want to thank the council for okaying the funds for Reverend Councilman Poole and I to attend the Essentials of Municipal Government Seminar in Greenville this past Friday and Saturday. It was quite an intensive workshop, was it not? Councilman Poole, we kept pretty busy, didn't we? But thank you for okaying those funds. It was very interesting and informative. The other issue I just want to bring up, and I know it's out of our control, but I don't know if any of you are coming on 17 from Elizabeth City at exit 230 and exit 228. I've never seen so much trash build up in all my life. I know the other exits aren't that great, and I know this is out of our control, but do they still have the prison work program going? Is that still alive?
They had the lockdown at Passenger.
Okay. It's, we're coming into our beautiful town. We hit that trash. It's just unsightly. Especially exit 230 and 228. I wish we can get some civic organizations, scouting programs out there, or adopt a highway program to help clean up this mess. And we have easels on the garden coming up in April, and people are going to be coming into our town, and that's the first thing they're going to hit before they get on that exit, and it's just horrible. And then one other thing, Mayor, I've been hit by some of my constituents who keep asking the question about the resurfacing of the roads, and I keep telling them, well, it's coming, be patient, the weather's been bad, Is that pretty much?
We reached out to the contractor today to try and get an updated schedule. They're obligated to complete the work by the end of March, so we are hoping that after this cold snap passes that they'll mobilize. But we'll give you an update in the management report this week.
By the end of March.
Yeah.
They said it's only going to take them about 2 weeks to do all that work. So.
I've got a question.
Next week's
Yes, sir.
I came by a couple of streets that they're working on. Do we have a write-up of what these contractors are going to do and what they're not, or how they're going to do it?
But for the street paving work?
Right.
Oh, yes. We had an engineer with the Wooten Company. They wrote the specifications. They did all sorts of field inspections to make sure that the contractor knew how much of the old pavement to remove, how much of the soils that have to be removed and replaced. We can share the specs with you if you'd like.
Oh, okay. I was just concerned because they had a place cut out about this wide the edge of the street, okay? And there's a lot of sand. So I really have never seen a street paved in that method.
Corey and I can get with you after the meeting and talk to you. I think you're talking about some utility work that we're doing now, and so Corey can explain the method to you. Sure.
Okay.
Mayor, I got one thing.
Okay.
I just want to ask everybody really out in the town to please go online to the Destination Downtown Facebook page and vote every 24 hours so that we can get a $25,000 grant or prize because we have the best downtown, and all the entrepreneurial ladies of the community got together and braved the cold and had a picture taken. So it's a great project, and you can vote every 24 hours. And just think what Jennifer can do with that money.
Only one vote within the 24-hour period, you're saying? One vote within the 24-hour period?
And what's that page again?
It's Destination Downtown's Facebook page.
Okay.
And you have to put in Edenton. You have to go to the place, and maybe you can tell them, Jennifer.
Sure, it's America's Main Streets Contest, and if you go to mainstreetcontest.com, you can look at nominees, type in Edenton, and we pop up, and then you have to click on that, and then you have to click on vote. They don't make it easy. So go to mainstreetcontest.com, nominees, and then type in Edenton. And you can do it every 24 hours, tell everybody you know. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, share it. Keep sharing it.
Very good. Good. That would be nice. Anything else from up here? All right, thank you for your comments. I'll open the floor back up for public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to address the town council on any matter that may be of interest or concern to you? We'd be delighted to hear from you. Okay, seeing no one, public comment portion of the agenda is closed, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank y'all very much.